There exists a particular force, more potent than weapons, more subtle than law, and more enduring than beauty. An aura that surrounds the one who resists engagement. In courts, in love, and in war, I have seen men rise not because they begged to be lifted, but because they denied the world the satisfaction of their desperation. Those who cling tightly are seen as dispensable, while those who withhold themselves become the focus of intrigue, envy, and admiration. This is not an accident. It is the fruit of discipline, the reward of one who has removed his hunger from public view. He who does not seek applause earns silence, and in that silence is a sovereignty that none can touch. When the multitude clamors for attention, throwing their hearts into the streets like coins, the rare one who remains silent becomes a king among beggars. Most souls are governed by the desperate desire to be seen, affirmed, and accepted. They wander through the world, spilling their essence, revealing their doubts, and offering their weaknesses to those least deserving. What they call vulnerability is merely servitude, wrapped in the silk of self-expression. But the one who knows power knows this: to reveal is to relinquish control, and to relinquish control is to become prey to the first who understands how to aim their flattery or their fury. I have always trusted the quiet man more than the passionate speaker, the one who watches, who says less than he knows, who lets others reveal themselves while he remains an opaque mirror. This man is not cold. He is deliberate. His reserve is not indifference, but judgment. For he weighs each moment before entering, and when he does, his step lands heavier than 100 voices. In the presence of such restraint, the impatient falter. They interpret silence as superiority, mystery as depth, and stillness as strength. And thus the man who appears uninvested becomes the very one around whom all must pivot. Why is it that the lover who gives freely is eventually dismissed, while the one who pulls away is remembered long after the bed has cooled? Why does the soldier who waits earn more fear than the one who rushes in screaming? Because what is offered without effort is never treasured, and what can be accessed at will is never respected. The world does not crave what is abundant. It is drawn toward scarcity, toward challenge, toward the unknown. A man who can be read like a book is soon shelved and forgotten, but one whose pages remain closed will be studied, admired, feared. You must understand that emotions, once shared too easily, become liabilities. If you confess your pain too quickly, it will be weaponized. If you declare your devotion too often, it will be cheapened. If you explain your decisions at every turn, your voice will become background noise. Most do not listen to understand. They listen to exploit. The art of self-possession lies in your refusal to supply ammunition to those who would aim it back at your chest. If you wish to be strong, you must master the economy of expression. Speak little, act rarely. But when you do, make every word and gesture land like an iron decree. Imagine a palace, one with high gates, stone walls, and a single guarded entryway. Now imagine another, its doors wide open, its treasures laid bare, its guards absent. Which one inspires awe? Which one tempts invaders? Which one commands respect? The answer is obvious. Power resides not in openness, but in selectivity. When you learn to ration your presence, your time, your affection, you declare yourself sacred. Those who wish access must prove themselves. And if they will not, then let them remain outside the gates. Their wailing need not move you. In my years observing courts and cloisters, I have found that those who are feared for their detachment are often the most respected. It is not because they are cruel. It is because they are not available for every request, every complaint, every manipulative tear. Their boundaries are not fences to be climbed. They are moats, and to cross such waters requires merit. This frightens the masses. They will accuse you of pride, of distance, of lacking warmth. But these accusations are not indictments. They are signs that you have stepped beyond their reach, that they cannot twist you into the shape they prefer. And so, in their powerlessness, they try to shame you back into servitude. The wise ruler understands that he cannot grant every wish, cannot attend every feast, cannot soothe every cry. To try is to dissolve his stature, to become nothing more than a servant cloaked in royal garb. The same law applies to every man. If you aim to be honored, do not make yourself common. If you wish to be pursued, do not always be present. If you desire influence, do not reveal your soul at every opportunity. Hold something back. Keep a part of yourself untouched, unreachable, unknown. Let others guess. Let them doubt. Let them strive. When they cannot see your heart, they will project their own desires upon you. They will mistake your silence for wisdom, your calm for confidence, your refusal to respond for moral superiority. This is not deception. It is strategy. Let the world invent the story they need to tell about you. So long as it serves your ends, why correct them? Why unveil your truth if illusion yields more fruit than honesty? Men are moved more by appearances than by reality. This has always been so, and it shall remain so until men themselves are remade. But make no error. Detachment is not the same as apathy. A man who does not care for anything is not powerful. He is decayed. A corpse has no enemies, but it also commands no obedience. The detached man, by contrast, cares very much. He simply refuses to show it to all. His affections are not absent, they are refined. His alliances are not non-existent, they are exclusive. His emotions do not rule him, they serve him. And this is what elevates him above the common throng who leak feeling from every wound and call it strength. I have seen rulers destroyed not by war, but by the inability to hold their tongues. I have seen lovers betrayed not by malice, but by overexposure. I have seen leaders mocked not because they were weak, but because they tried too hard to be loved. Detachment guards against these fates. It is the armor beneath the robes, the dagger behind the smile, the pause before the strike. It gives you space to see others as they are, unclouded by your own longing. It grants you time to weigh the offer before you speak, the insult before you react, the desire before you pursue. If you truly seek command, you must learn to delay. Delay the pleasure. Delay the reaction. Delay the response. For in delay lies power. The one who can wait is the one who is not ruled by appetite. The one who can pause is the one who observes the game while others lose their heads in it. In love, in battle, in negotiation, this law holds. The one who can afford to walk away always wins, and only the detached can walk away. Consider this carefully. How many of your losses came from your eagerness to please? How often did you abandon your own judgment to secure another's smile? How many times did you unmask yourself for someone who merely wished to see your flaws, not your truth? These are wounds not made by enemies, but by your own betrayal of self. Detachment is the medicine for this affliction. It teaches you to value silence over speech, mystery over exposure, patience over need. It is a slow education. You will stumble. You will be tempted. There will be moments when the desire to be understood claws at your throat, when the urge to explain rushes to your lips. Resist. For every explanation you offer is a brick removed from your fortress. Every confession is a roadmap handed to your adversaries. Instead, let your silence be your shield. Let your stillness unsettle them. Let your unavailability become the trial by which they must prove their worth. Detachment is not a denial of life, but a preservation of dignity. It does not extinguish desire. It refines it. It transforms need into choice, reaction into strategy, passion into precision. Those who misunderstand this will call it cruelty. But the truly cruel are not those who withhold themselves. The truly cruel are those who demand everything and offer nothing. Detachment is your refusal to feed these parasites. You do not owe your soul to those who knock loudly. You owe it to yourself to protect it. And in that protection, you will find that the world begins to tilt toward you, not because you shouted for it to notice, but because your silence became too loud to ignore. There will always be a moment, subtle yet pivotal, when a man must decide whether to be understood or to be sovereign. It is not an easy choice. The temptation to explain oneself is deeply rooted in the human condition. People are conditioned to believe that clarity leads to peace, that understanding builds bridges. But more often, understanding is not sought to unite. It is pursued to control. Once they grasp your reasoning, they trace your weaknesses. Once they chart your boundaries, they design their conquest. The impulse to disclose is the greatest vulnerability in any man who seeks power, and the first habit he must strangle. Observe how the world reacts to stillness. The crowd demands urgency, constant noise, frantic participation. Silence unnerves them. Mystery disturbs them. The man who abstains from the performance is viewed as dangerous, not because he wields force, but because he operates outside their expectations. The people fear what they cannot interpret. And when you no longer behave in ways they are accustomed to, they begin to orbit you, trying to decipher the code you no longer care to share. This is no act of cruelty. This is preservation. One does not hand over the castle key to the first guest who knocks. The man who respects his own mind builds high walls around it. He does not lay it open like an inn for every traveler seeking comfort, nor does he beg for entry into other citadels. He understands that true influence does not come from being known. It comes from being felt, anticipated, imagined. The less others can touch you, the more they chase the illusion of your presence. Yet, most men ruin their position by attempting to earn love through sacrifice. They give time to those who waste it, loyalty to those who betray it, energy to those who drain it. They chase, explain, beg to be chosen. What begins as generosity ends in subjugation. Those who give too much are seldom thanked. They are consumed. Their affection becomes currency others spend freely. Their loyalty becomes the leash by which they are dragged. And in the end, they look upon their own shattered dignity and wonder how it vanished. I tell you now, dignity does not vanish. It is traded. Bit by bit, in every compromise made to appease another, it is exchanged for temporary validation. The only way to reclaim it is to cease the trade, to declare, without apology, that your attention is a kingdom and that entry must be earned with more than words and hunger. This declaration is not spoken. It is lived. It is in the quiet turning away from provocation, the refusal to explain a silence, the calm gaze that answers accusation with nothing. Let others label it arrogance. Let them call it detachment. These are not insults. They are evidence that your refusal has struck their dependency. People rely on your reactions more than they admit. Your anger becomes their excuse. Your explanations become their weapons. Your affection, when offered without boundary, becomes the leash they grip when they wish to summon you. Detachment cuts this leash. It transforms you from the predictable servant to the unpredictable sovereign. But beware. The moment you begin to pull away from the expected roles, helper, healer, confessor, fool, they will resist. They will tempt you back with guilt. They will accuse you of betrayal. Not because you have harmed them, but because you have withdrawn the easy access they once exploited. They do not mourn your absence. They mourn the loss of control. Let them. Their discomfort is not your burden. It is the sound of your independence unsettling their illusion. It is a bitter truth that most love is conditional. It is tethered not to who you are, but to what you provide. When you cease performing, that affection dissolves. This revelation, while painful, is also liberation. For once you stop depending on borrowed affection, you are free to cultivate respect, not the shallow respect of flattery, but the deep and quiet kind, the kind built on mystery, on boundaries, on restraint. In the arena of influence, the man who commands attention is not the loudest, but the least available. He does not flood the space with noise. He withdraws, and by doing so, he creates vacuum. In this vacuum, others project, guess, and desire. He becomes the canvas upon which their minds paint stories. What he does not say becomes more powerful than what others scream. And in that silence, he achieves what armies cannot: command over others' imaginations. Detachment, then, is not an escape. It is not a retreat into numbness or stoic disguise. It is an offensive maneuver disguised as withdrawal. It is choosing when to reveal your intentions and when to let others exhaust themselves in speculation. It is the willingness to forfeit comfort for command, pleasure for position, and validation for value. In this way, detachment is the most disciplined form of engagement. Consider the man who needs nothing. He cannot be lured by empty praise. He cannot be manipulated with the threat of rejection. He cannot be steered by the fear of being left behind. The man who needs nothing possesses everything because he owns himself. His approval of others is a deliberate act, not a reflex. His affection is earned, not assumed. And because he can walk away, he is the one they try to pull closer. This is the paradox of power. The man who does not crave becomes the object of others' craving. The one who speaks sparingly is believed to be wiser. The one who waits is seen as composed. This is why restraint must be practiced until it becomes your default posture, not merely as performance, but as truth. You must train your impulse to react until it bows before the will of your purpose. In war, the general who reveals his tactics early invites defeat. In governance, the prince who offers his entire soul to the crowd invites mutiny. In intimacy, the lover who gives everything without measure invites contempt. Human nature punishes the easily accessed, the overexposed, the too generous. It rewards mystery, distance, and the tension of possibility. And so, the man who wishes to endure must learn to hold back, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. This withholding is not deception. It is a test. It sorts the worthy from the unworthy. Those who respect your reserve will seek to earn more of you. Those who resent it were never interested in you, only in your utility. Detachment unmasks them all. The manipulator grows frantic. The flatterer grows impatient. The parasite looks elsewhere. Only the sincere remain, and even they must pass through your fire before they touch your center. But such fire must be controlled. Detachment is not about building walls so high no one can see in. It is about creating doors that do not swing open for every knock. It is about being a fortress with windows, visible but not vulnerable. The goal is not to isolate, but to elevate, to exist above the pettiness of constant performance and beneath the burden of constant explanation. And when confrontation arises, as it always does, do not meet it with panic. Meet it with pause. Most battles are invitations to waste your strength. Let others lash out. Let them scream their grievances, throw their stones of accusation. You, meanwhile, remain still, untouched, not because you lack response, but because you reserve it for when it will matter most. That is the true execution of strategy. Acting only when action yields transformation, not reaction. In this, detachment becomes a form of warfare. It is not about retreating from life. It is about dominating it from behind the veil. You learn to see through the noise. You learn to measure the weight of silence. You understand that to engage everything is to control nothing. You do not join every conflict. You do not defend every slight. You do not validate every demand for your time or soul. And in this abstention, you ascend. Remember, influence does not come from being agreeable. It comes from being immovable. It is not built in your yes, but in your no. In your refusal to be shaped by every passing wind. In your resistance to the compulsion to justify yourself. Let others run in circles. Let them exhaust themselves in chase. You remain centered, quiet, decisive. To be feared or loved, that old question I once posed, has not lost its relevance. But there is a third path now, more refined, to be respected. And respect is born not of obedience, not of affection, but of consistency. A man who holds his standard no matter who stands before him will be both loved and feared in time. And if not, he will at least be free. Freedom is the true treasure. Not the freedom to indulge, but the freedom from compulsion. The detached man does not react because the world commands him to. He reacts only when it aligns with his aim. He does not speak to fill air, or confess to be comforted, or chase to be seen. His existence is governed by intention, not desire. And for this, he becomes a force. This force is not loud. It does not advertise itself. It grows in shadows. It feeds on discipline. It is the slow burn of a man becoming untouchable, not because he hides, but because he reigns from within. That is the promise of detachment. Not a life of isolation, but a throne built on restraint. And those who wish to sit upon such a throne must give up the games of boys and take on the weight of mastery. So now I ask you, not as a philosopher, but as a man who has studied kings, generals, lovers, and traitors. Are you ready to let go of your need to be embraced by the many, so you may become indispensable to the few? Are you prepared to be feared for your silence rather than loved for your obedience? Can you withstand the absence of applause to earn the presence of power? If you can, then walk with stillness. Say less. Hold your fire. Let the world spin while you study its rhythm. You are no longer a player on their board. You are the architect of your own realm. And that, above all, is the reward of detachment.